Take me back to the place I miss with the rebel hackers and agent Smiths. I'm already jacked in with Morpheus. Yes, I've decided my mind's inside the Matrix. Mr. Anderson, we missed you. Welcome back to MATRIX-y Shack Lookback, formerly a nostalgic time capsule and no-spoiler book club of the original Gravity Falls fandom.
Do you like what I've done with the place?
We've made it into a review of The Matrix Resurrections. We are your curators. I am Smith.
I am Smith. Hello, Smith.
Why? Looking handsome today.
It's lovely to speak with you today.
It is.
On our podcast.
This is indeed a podcast.
Ella Smith is so much better than mine. So we are a show about talking about Gravity Falls. This has nothing to do with that.
We can do what we want, as the Matrix tells us.
Listen, I was raised secularly Catholic, and that is why we have an episode talking about Christmas, relating it to Santa mythos, and we are religiously trans, and that's why we have an episode talking about the Matrix.
The Matrix is just kind of about Jesus anyway.
That is also true.
You're like my savior, man. You're my own personal Jesus Christ.
It's a movie about a transgender Jesus that came out in 1999, but the fourth film, interestingly, came out in 2021?
So we're just going to take this as a bonus episode.
We have referenced Matrix incessantly on this podcast, to the extent that I think we've probably lost a couple of viewers. We talked about The Matrix and the Wachowskis for the majority of our Rumble's Revenge Let's Play, which is on our YouTube.
That's true. And it was wonderful. So we're just using this opportunity. We previously did a bonus episode about Inside Job, and now we're doing another one-off, not in the official episode count, about the upcoming, now released, fourth Matrix film. But I guess to contextualize, so I know you watched the trilogy before I did the first time.
Do you want my Matrix history? Because I've never told you this.
No, I want your Matrix history.
Okay,
yeah.
Hold on. There's a siren again.
Those people are our enemies.
So I had a phase of I told you I grew up in a pretty terrible neighborhood. When we moved to a nice neighborhood, the library system for that county is just amazing. In Morristown, New Jersey, there is a library that is basically a warehouse. Like, it's like 3 floors, and they're...
Like ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark energy.
There's no reason to enter there, because from any Morris County library, you can order anything from any Morris County library. So the purpose of the Morristown library is to increase the stock that those can order. So I was, at the time, living in a town called Rockaway. And every time we went to the Rockaway Library, I would rent a different movie. Bonus points if it was one I had heard of, but never watched. Usually, if that was a movie like that, like if it was something I had to watch for a video or something, I would request it and they would order it. But usually I would just peruse the shelves and be like, I've heard of that. So yeah, I grew up with Legendary Frog, not next to him. I'm not from Georgia, but I loved Legend of Zelda, and that was his big one.
And he was primarily on Newgrounds, right?
I did not watch him on Newgrounds. I did not know about Newgrounds until much later. I watched him on flashplayer.com, which was one of the many sites that download things from Newgrounds, and then it's like when you look up any Flash game, you find a website that's like free game.
I see. Yeah, gotcha.
I had watched The Matrix Has You and The Matrix Has You Again a million times, and I happened by the digital video disc and was like, yeah, all right. Might have been a VHS. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Not important to the story. Other than the detail that I'm very old.
Darling, I'm old.
Yeah, I liked it. I knew my cousin was really into the movies, so I was like, why is the next one rated R, I guess was my question. And he said, is
the first one not R?
Is the first one not R? I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm neurodivergent, but I got really uncomfortable with, like, things that I knew were inappropriate for my age.
Well, no, I get that. There's something, like, scary, kind of, about, like, this is not intended for you.
I used to have nightmares about finding out that my friends swear. Yeah, I distinctly remember, like, a friend said a bad word in a dream, and in the dream we were on a field trip, and that was something we normally did together, so I thought it was real. And I remember being relieved when I woke up. This was when I was in 2nd grade. So I asked my cousin, you know, why is the second one rated R? Is there anything I should be worried about? Maybe I saw that it said some nudity, and he says, just some butts. I chose not to engage with it due to the butts. I didn't want the butts.
It's gotta be the butts.
Yeah, it was the butts. And then when I finally did watch it, I'm like, you can't even see those butts.
No, the cake orgasm is much worse.
Yes, that's true. There is an X-ray of a simulation of what happens in the body during an orgasm. So,
it's just really good cake.
When Movies with Mikey released his Matrix review, which was largely about, you know, people rewatching the film with a trans lens, I kind of started to get interested in it again, and so I rewatched it. The first time I watched it, I liked it, and I didn't have any strong memories of it. But then when I watched it after watching the Movies with Mikey review, I was like, this movie rules, because it's like really smart and really stupid and never afraid to be either.
Or both at the same time.
Yeah, like there are moments where a lot of people would second guess themselves and be like, that would go over our audience's head, or that's too lowbrow, that's basically Looney Tunes.
Well, I described the entire oeuvre of the Wachowskis as you know, simultaneously way too smart and also way too stupid.
Yes, so they were born idiots, and that is a part of them, and they've retained that, and it's important to them. That's why they've kept that with them. They were, you know, 2 siblings who watched a bunch of anime together, and they were like, you know, stupid. And then also, they are incredibly overeducated, which is something that happens to you later in life.
Yeah.
In spite of all of their knowledge of filmmaking and writing and philosophy and philosophy history, they kept their kind of NASCAR idiots vibe.
Love of just big dumb action, you know?
So what I've been telling as your Matrix origin story, what I've been telling people of why does Ella keep talking about the Matrix so much? And you could correct me, but this is the version of the story that I can recollect, is that,
okay,
oh, she was working really hard on her senior thesis, but also needed to write a paper for her gender studies class and wanted a shortcut and was like, well, the Matrix is trans, boom.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but it is, I don't think there's a relation to the thesis so much as...
Okay.
So it was 2020 was when the, like, headlines started coming out that, like, Lily Wachowski was explicitly confirming that it was about being trans, even though that had been speculated for quite some time. But that's what... Because, yeah, I was obviously always aware of the Matrix as a cultural thing. I mean, it's referenced to frickin' Shrek, you know?
Yeah,
like,
there was a bit for a few years where every comedy movie that had an action scene had to do bullet time, like it was a law or something.
But yeah, so it was obvious, you know, it was always there, you know, like a splinter in my mind, you could say. But that's what kind of put it at the front of my head of like, all right, I should sit down and watch this sometime.
So you're saying you knew of it, but you didn't understand.
Right, exactly. What I knew, I couldn't explain, but I felt it. It was one of those movies where you're just like, oh, I should watch that sometime. But, so yes, there is kind of a connection in that I was busy with my senior project.
Yeah, you were really overworked then.
I needed an excuse to watch it. I needed a reason to watch it that was not wasting time. And so I had a gender studies class my final semester of college, and the final assignment was to make a presentation and research a trans or queer artist and interpret their work through that lens. And so I said, perfect, there you go.
Yeah, no, and also I'm right in that if that is your assignment, doing the Matrix is easy mode. It's like,
well, it is, but I also wanted to go all in on it. I didn't want to just regurgitate what other people had said. So I researched. It was a dual part thing where, you know, you're researching the artists themselves and also their work and synthesizing that into one thing. And I'm pretty proud of it. And yeah, but,
cool. I'm sorry for saying you half-assed it. I didn't mean to imply that it wasn't a good paper.
And it was also getting to touch on, like, the cultural aftermath of, like, you know, red pilling getting appropriated and all that sort of fun
stuff. The two things that the new right, the online offshoot of right-wing politics, the two things they love referencing the most are the Guy Fawkes mask from the graphic novel V for Vendetta, but most of them probably know of it from the movie with a screenplay by Lily and Lana Wachowski and being red-pilled. So it's like they make movies about seeing through the bullshit and finding out what's really going on in the world.
But it's a really easy way to attract bigots, turns out.
Yes, because
when you're vague.
What they see as the bullshit is societal institutions.
The machine.
The things that were built up by the elite to control us, like gender, and yes, it was. I promise you, I'm not going to get into the history here. Gender was invented by the elite to control us. I just trust me on this. You can read Ella's paper, maybe.
Yeah. It was a presentation, but I'll go to your house and do it.
Now, what's interesting is every other time we have covered anything on this podcast, I have stepped 2 feet to the left of my voice recording booth where I have a computer.
Oh yeah, I haven't moved at all.
Ella doesn't even move. Ella's not moved once. Ella is in the same place now as she was in episode 1, and we just finished recording episode 30. Are you okay?
Well, truth be told, I'm not sure if I can stand up anymore.
But you're gonna have to, because the only way for us to see this movie is Ella. We are going to... There's this new invention that they've started developing in the last couple months since the vaccine has come out. It's called there are a couple of names for it. Multiplex. Mm-hmm. They call it the cinemas is the UK name, but regionally we prefer the term movie theater.
Oh.
So Ella, I was actually going to get into my car right now, drive to your house, put you into my car, and drive you to one of these...
Movie houses?
Theaters.
Oh, okay, got it. I'll try to remember that. Well, I do have 2 tickets to the Matrix Resurrections, and I know Kung Fu.
Show me.
Here, I have the tickets.
Okay, how can you say the movie's not silly when there is a scene in which someone jolts awake and immediately
and they say, I know Kung Fu.
Their waking thought is, I know Kung Fu. And the way the person who is standing
leans
next
in,
to them, watching them sleep, reacts is by leaning in and saying, show me. How can you say it's not a silly...
It is. It's also perfect. Silly and perfect can coexist.
I take exception to it is not a silly movie because that is one of my favorite things about that movie. That is why I have been telling people
Fair enough.
They should watch it if they haven't seen it.
Well, let's buckle up, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
Yes, buckling up is how I get in the car. Good job.
Thanks. Yeah.
This is the moment for you to show us what is real right now. You believe it's 6:27 p.m. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Could be. This is the first day of the rest of your life. But if you want it, you gotta fight for it.
Do you remember how you got here? You've lost your capacity to discern reality from fiction. What's real is here and now. 6:28 p.m. Anything else is just your mind playing tricks on you. It becomes a problem when fantasies endanger us. We don't want anyone to get hurt, do we?
So we just saw in the, movie theater.
Oh, good, you learned.
Yeah, we saw the Matrix Resurrections.
There's something I would like to ask you before we start discussing this film. We have previously ranked the Matrix franchise from best to worst by our personal opinion before. A list which we jokingly included the MTV Movie Awards and the 2 Legendary Frog videos.
Oh, that was not a joke for me. Those are actually better than...
Yeah, we actually legitimately believe them to be better than Reloaded or Revolutions, but we don't legitimately believe them to be part of the franchise.
They should be, but they're not.
I believe they are required viewing for someone discovering the show, but with leaving those out because they are sort of joke entries. They do have Die Hard as a Christmas movie vibes.
A little.
What was our ranking?
Number 1, The Matrix. Number 2, The Animatrix. Number 3, Reloaded. Number 4, Revolutions.
So literally just in descending order of release, huh? Or
Pretty much, yeah. Actually, yeah.
Or did Animatrix come out between
No, I believe Animatrix came out first.
Okay, so now the grand reveal. You first. Put Resurrections in the list.
Okay, I'm gonna say... See, well, Animatrix is complicated because it is an anthology, so it's like a very holistic, like, ranking. If we, breaking up the Animatrix into its segments, but we'd be here all day. So I'm gonna say, for now, my gut ranking would be number 1, Matrix, number 2, Animatrix, number 3, Resurrections, and then Reloaded and Revolutions.
I think I might put Resurrections over Animatrix.
Yeah, that's the thing that I was grappling with.
I think I might enjoy the film as a whole more than potentially. I'd have to rewatch it.
No, that's probably true. But again, that's the inherent trickiness of Animatrix.
I think, and I could be wrong. My memories of the Animatrix are kind of fuzzy, which is weird because my memories of the Matrix are very strong. But I don't remember it so super well, but I think that I like the Matrix Resurrections more than any individual segment.
Okay. Yeah. If I think more about it, I probably would agree.
Maybe no, you know what? I think the one about the house that is glitching.
Haunted, yeah. I always think about the guy who runs so fast that he exceeds the programmed limit on, like, humans running. And so he, like, sees his pod for a second.
But enough about the Animatrix. So Matrix Resurrections...
I'll start by saying that I knew basically nothing about this going in.
Oh yeah, I actually refused to watch the trailers.
Yeah, I had watched just the first trailer, which was super vague.
Oh no, I didn't. I actually, like, shielded my eyes when it was playing as an ad. Yeah. No, I went in as blind as you possibly could. I don't know how I knew that Jonathan Groff and Neil Patrick Harris were going to be in it.
I think, yeah, there had been articles trickling through over the months of, like, so-and-so signed on for Matrix 4. It's probably one of those things.
Okay.
I knew a handful of things. I unfortunately got spoiled for the fact that Trinity gets called a MILF.
Oh, that one was I don't know that it was a particular shock. I liked that part.
It wasn't shocking, but
okay, can we talk about, I know, like, discussing actors' appearances or bodies is not necessarily productive, but, so they look better, right? Like, it's not just me.
Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves look exponentially more attractive.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Tell me what you said about Keanu.
Oh, so I said Carrie-Anne Moss is, just way more beautiful than she's ever been. I was astounded every time she was on screen. Keanu has reached a level of attractive where he no longer looks real.
How appropriate.
In the first Matrix in 1999, he looks like an attractive person I might meet.
Yeah.
Matrix Resurrections, he looks like a cartoon drawn to be a hot dad. I don't know.
Yeah, he looks like a detailed SpongeBob close-up of a hot person.
No, yeah, it's almost, I'm almost uncomfortable looking at him. Like, there's this uncanny valley effect. Like,
you're too beautiful, Keanu.
So, Matrix Resurrections is a film about Keanu Reeves being forced by Warner Brothers to make a fourth Matrix film.
Mm-hmm.
But also literally.
Yeah, I was worried from the opening. I mean, I was worried from hearing about it, that it was going to be like a Force Awakens soft reboot where it's about like new characters, but not really, and it's a new story, but not really, and it's, but no, this is a film about Neo, which I really liked. It's Neo and Trinity are the main characters.
And they talk about soft reboots a lot in the scene where Thomas Anderson is a game designer and he is being forced to make a sequel to his successful Matrix trilogy.
Yeah, and I love that it's two levels. It isn't exclusively a meta joke, but it is also the idea that the Matrix, that the machines have, like, going off of Revolutions, they said, all right, so this guy's a problem for us, and how do we make sure that he doesn't wake up again? And it's not by denying the existence of the Matrix and just, not speaking of it at all, but like basically gaslighting him into believing that what happened to him was actually a fictional story, that he has hallucinations. That's really smart on the part of the machines, and it's also a meta thing for Lana Wachowski.
So during those moments where it's Thomas Anderson grappling with the existence of his world again, I was actually going to put this above the first film.
Really?
Because I've never worked in a cubicle.
Yeah, but you've created characters, and as have I.
I watched The Matrix when I was, definitely too young to see an R-rated film.
Right, the butts.
I never felt like, what if my world is fake? I have felt nothing but since I left the theater.
As I was walking out of the theater, I felt like how people must have felt in 1999. This is why I'm glad that we did trek out to see this in the movie theater. Side note, shout out to the person who briefly sat a seat away from me without a mask on. You are a superstar, and I'm putting you on blast right now. But that worked out. And then when we walked out of the theater, I was like, it's kind of that post seeing a movie at a movie theater high. But with Matrix, it's like advanced, because I walked into the bathroom and I was like looking at the mirror. I was like,
on the way back, I drove past a sign.
That's right.
That said Matrix and a phone number, a big billboard that said Matrix and a phone number with no other information. Ella, I like to believe I have a pretty strong grasp on reality. I reached for my phone.
Yeah, you were
I stopped myself.
No, same. Like, I had that moment, because in the film they say they don't need to use phone booths anymore to get back to the real world. They use mirrors, and I was looking at the mirrors in the bathroom. I was like, yeah. I had to stop myself. I was like,
As well as in the first Matrix, there are a lot of references to Alice in Wonderland, and using the mirror as a portal is a reference to Alice Through the Looking Glass, second Alice book.
And it is how Neo initially gets freed, is when like the goo, like the mirror turns into goo, and then it's like all over him. So I guess it's just kind of a version of that within the film's logic.
Yes.
But it is also, and then a character is reading one of the Alice books. Yeah, and it isn't just what if my world is fake, but like what if what I think is fake is real? That's a whole other layer that they didn't
and
they didn't even touch on in the first movie.
I mean, the real villains here are his therapist almost, or analyst almost, justifying the abuse he suffers in the workplace. And that certainly is a fear of mine. So like,
yeah, he reveals that human suffering actually is better power. It's like a reverse Monsters, Inc. Like, Scream is actually more powerful than laughter, so if we keep them miserable, it generates more for the machines.
Here's why I think the soft reboot thing worked really well.
Yeah.
I see the soft reboot as a red herring.
Yeah.
Because The Matrix 1999 is about rescuing Morpheus from the agents.
Mm-hmm.
When they were trying to rescue Trinity, just straight up did not expect the analyst to pop in and stop them, because I thought I was watching a soft reboot.
Yeah, it lulls you into that false sense of, oh, I've seen this before.
And then the ending, the climax,
Where they're on the roof, much like, stalked by the helicopter, much like that set piece from the first film.
But also, the ending has a world overrun by Smiths.
Well, yeah.
And so, the stakes are not one-to-one Matrix, and I think every time you thought they were going to be, that is a misdirect.
Exactly.
So I think it is using the reputation of Force Awakens, etc.,
against you as an audience member, yeah.
By using some jokes that admittedly were funnier in 21 Jump Street, and a lot of people have been complaining about the fourth wall jokes, but The Matrix is a fourth wall joke. The Matrix is literally saying that these characters are fictional. That is,
and like I was saying, that's part of the machine's plan this time around, is to convince Neo that they are characters. It's actually creating like a fake fourth wall to Neo, but it is accidentally describing our reality.
And convincing him that he is not in love with Trinity because it is his wife, who he married, but because he just has this obsession with this married woman he sees at the coffee shop that isn't healthy.
Did they get married?
I mean, there's probably not priests in Zion.
Well, I mean,
there's a judge.
Do you need a priest to officiate your wedding when you are Jesus?
I heard you laugh really hard when Niobe was like, I don't want just a boring trial.
Yeah, she was like, I'm too old for a trial. I was like, yeah, I'm too old for space politics. Like, it reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy when Rodin's like, your politics bore me, like, at the Star Wars prequels.
There were scenes with the council arriving at decisions in Reloaded that we just couldn't sit through.
Slept through, yeah.
So Niobe saying that is clearly a dig at something that didn't work in the second film.
Yeah.
Okay, can we talk about Jada Pinkett Smith's old age makeup?
I could not, in the first couple shots, I could not tell what was makeup and what was CG, but, like, was it all makeup?
I have no idea. They might have just found an old Jada Pinkett Smith. It is one of the best instances.
We actually just put Jada Pinkett Smith in an aging machine. We just accelerated her aging.
It's legitimately one of the best aging I've ever seen in a film, I think.
Yeah, although I feel like it is probably easier to pull off old age than reverse aging. But she was great. I loved her.
Oh, she was great. She almost sounds like she's doing an Oracle impression with the character's voice.
A little, yeah.
And she's got this kind of cartoonish old lady walk that I thought was a little silly.
Yeah, no, there was one wide shot where it was like she was very, like, hunched over, kind of hobbling around. I was like, yeah.
So, do you successfully feel based in red pilled now, Ella?
I was always based in red pilled.
There's a lot of jokes towards tech bro culture.
Yes.
We got a tech bro Smith instead of Walter Cronkite Smith.
We get startup bro Smith. Jonathan Groff, who I did not realize was going to be Smith, which is what, I'm glad I didn't look into that.
It just says it on the Wikipedia, and I'm like, ooh, I'm glad I did not read this.
So, I mean, the first moment where he lets out a big ol' Mr. Anderson, and he intentionally, like, arches his eyebrows to look like Hugo Weaving, and he is really, I wasn't sure what he was doing here. I think we were both like, why is Jonathan Groff in this? But he's really good.
Yes. Same with Neil Patrick Harris as the analyst, and both of them, Smith and the architect, are supposed to represent a certain way you would have seen your oppressors in 1999 as
suits,
boring guys in suits. I read an article about how there is a greater wealth divide in this country now than there was in France during the French Revolution, but the French aristocrats had a specific way of dressing.
Aristocrats.
Did I say aristocrats?
I do that all the time, too.
Okay, it's fine. But the French aristocrats dressed a certain way that you could spot one from a mile away, whereas Steve Jobs popularized the turtleneck thing, and it's become this world where...
we're not really a business here, we're a family.
Yeah, billionaires dress and talk like they're your friend now, not like they are above you. And I read an article about how that is a weapon.
They are distancing themselves from their...
That is how they are avoiding the scrutiny that the French aristocrats got. I mean, crats. I don't know the reception aristocrats got in France. Maybe they liked it. I don't know.
I love those sucking kitty cats.
But yeah, I actually read an article about how the sneaker and jeans look that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, etc., have is a system of control. And then, boom, the second there's an article about a new way rich people are controlling people, here comes a new Wachowski movie.
Pretty much. Smith, really, really well done. I was worried when it was revealed because I was like, Hugo Weaving, you can't touch Hugo Weaving's performance.
Hugo Weaving and Lawrence Fishburne are the best part of the first film.
Yeah, exactly. And they did something that I wanted them to do in Revolutions. I always thought that Revolutions messed up its climax because I thought that, they repeat in this movie even that when Neo initially defeats Smith in the first movie, he unlocks some potential in his coding or something, and Smith is always talking about how Neo freed him, and he becomes not Agent Smith, but just Smith, and it felt like building to a partnership between them, and it's a shame that they didn't do that in Revolutions, because I really thought that Neo was going to broker the deal with Smith, because they both, Smith admits in the first movie, has a whole speech about how much he hates the Matrix and he hates to be there.
Yes.
And they have a common enemy, and I thought they were going to do that in that one, but they do it here, and it's great.
As well as your complaint about the final fight scene at the end of Revolutions.
Right, where there's he's taken over the entire Matrix, but there's only one Smith involved in the fight. The others just stand
watch.
around.
Whereas in this movie, there is a relatively similar scene.
Yeah, well, it's a new idea that they have where they basically set all the other humans trapped in the Matrix to kill mode, and it's pretty cool.
Right, so they start using humans as projectiles.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious, and you said, well, it's a Wachowski movie, but also is something I'm sure a lot of people wished the Smiths looking out the windows did at the end of Revolutions.
Right. It's an obvious advantage that they're just not using, and yeah, but it's great that Smith gets to work on their side, at least for a little. I wish he'd formally joined them, but he kind of...
Anyone can be Neo, but Smith can be anyone. Yeah,
he kind of just... he helps them out for a scene and then basically announces, well, my work here is done. And then he leaves.
Well, if there's no one keeping him on a leash, then our boy Smith.
I know, but I thought that establishing that there's a way for programs to exist in the real world materially, I thought he was gonna,
Smith might hate the Matrix, but that's a means to an end.
No, I know, that's the point. Yeah, I thought he was going to choose Neo and the humans and the Resistance over
maybe,
the Matrix.
But that's not my. That's my boy.
Yeah, he chooses himself in the end, and that makes enough sense to work
him.
for me.
It's Smith.
Yeah. He does love himself. Is it me or I thought about this recently? Neo, Smith. Good ship. I think Smith is in love with Neo.
It all originates from the homophobic nightmare. You know about the homophobic nightmare?
I've had several, but
the homophobic nightmare is what the Batman fandom and crew used to refer to the fact that
the Joker.
Their series is about a man wearing all black whose core personality trait is toxic masculinity,
Yeah.
beating up a man in purple who likes to sing
yeah.
and dance and laugh.
It did remind me of the Lego Batman movie dynamic where Smith literally is like, you didn't appreciate our relationship, Mr. Anderson. I'm too good for you. I've moved on.
Well, yes, but that's the thing is Smith and Neo's relationship of this yin and yang, you complete me, we cannot exist without
Neo
the other.
cracked his egg, and now he's in love with Neo.
Yeah, so, one, probably all villains are gay.
Good point.
It's very, very difficult to trace villain tropes back and not have queer coding or outright homophobia come up.
Fair point.
Almost all villain tropes have homophobic origins. So yes, there is the very common trope, not even new here, not even new when it first showed up in Batman, of a male villain obsessed with a male hero.
I think they almost bring it to a place of, I mean, I think I'm reading into it entirely, but I think also they almost brought it to a genuine place with him briefly switching sides and kind of, it's like this program, this, set of code suddenly having feelings and not understanding what they are and realizing I must hate you, I guess. It's like, I don't know. I love that and I wish they had dug deeper, but they only have so much time.
I'm really honestly happy with all of the recastings. So, I want to talk about the new Morpheus and the new White Rabbit.
Okay, well, the new Morpheus first, I guess, because we have less to say about him.
Yeah, he doesn't do much, but
I wish he did more. I wish that when the programs were in the real world, one, I wish they had clothes on. It looked like they were naked.
Yes.
I love the effect, but I also wish that it looked more like the people. Like, they're just kind of gray blob.
In the original trilogy, the only program that was able to interact with the real world was the Deus Ex Machina, and he did it through needlepoint in that. Well, okay, Smith. Yes, you're right.
I was going to say Smith, but that was when he was a virus still, and he could infect Bane.
The only program that was part of the Matrix that was able to enter the real world was the Deus Ex Machina, the god of the machines.
Oh, okay. I see.
And he entered the real world through needles.
I didn't even make that connection. I know you motioned at me about it in the theater, but I didn't know what you meant.
So what the programs are using to interact with, it's called I.O., which I think is very clever.
Oh yeah, so yeah, the new Zion is I.O., which is not only the middle of the word Zion, but we both realize...
It has two meanings. One, it's the middle of Zion. Two, it's 01 backwards.
And 01, as revealed in the Animatrix, is the name of the machine's main city.
I.O. is a city in between where Zion and 01 were, where machines and humans coexist, yeah.
There's a great theme of, like, it's, redefining what our side means with Smith and another Animatrix connection, because there's a film in that about rehabilitating the machines. And they're great! I love them! The robots are so cute!
It comes to a theme of this movie of...
breaking binaries?
Questioning binaries.
You want to talk about breaking binaries?
The two teaser trailers I played earlier...
Yes.
...represent the red pill and the blue pill. I don't know if you noticed this, because you are colorblind. But
yeah, well, wait, I think I know what you're about to say.
Yes, go for it.
Are you about to say that in some shots, many shots, the lighting was making it so that the characters had red and blue heterochromia in their eyes?
I was going to say that the frames on the analyst's glasses
are blue.
And the frames on new Morpheus's glasses are red.
Oh, I did not notice the red glasses.
Yeah, I know red is one you struggle with. I know you first learned that Edgeworth wore a red suit because we wrote a lyric about it.
From Ace Attorney.
But so the two teasers I played earlier are narrated by...
one is by the analyst, I think.
They're almost the exact same dialogue, but one is by Morpheus and one is by the analyst.
I think I did watch those when they dropped, and I can't believe I didn't put it together that Neil Patrick Harris was a villain.
Yes,
but
I listened to it again on the way back, and in the Neil Patrick Harris teaser, what he is saying is there are things that are definitively real.
Yeah.
For example, what time is it?
What's real is here and now. 6:28 p.m.
You can't deny that.
Yeah.
Try to distinguish between reality and fantasy because you don't want to hurt someone.
Right.
So he is saying things that are actively against the theming of the first Matrix, and I did not catch that the first time listening.
Yeah, so wait, I really wonder if I'm wrong about the heterochromia in the eyes, and I am just being colorblind, but
I don't know.
Really
I was just going to point out the glasses frames, but that also...
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else out there noticed that. I wouldn't put it past the Lana Wachowski and everyone else to be that meticulous.
I also noticed, but because this film is about questioning binaries, the word binary shows up all over the film. There is not...
Yeah, it's like the new game that Neo's working on is literally called Binary.
The new game that I think he has to stop working on to instead work on Matrix 4, which he doesn't want to do.
I'm just realizing they literally rebooted the Matrix. Like, the machines made a new version of the Matrix.
I would call it more of a soft reboot.
Of the Matrix, yeah.
There is a literal soft reboot in this film, yes.
Yeah.
New Morpheus and his colorful glasses and all other clothes.
Yeah, he's got drip, I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say he's pretty drippy. Which is why I wish his program displayed more of him, his program self.
So the fact that he refuses to wear... He will wear suits, he will wear masculine clothing, but it will always be colorful and eye-catching. And the new White Rabbit, named Bugs Bunny.
I don't know if their surname is Bunny. Probably.
Okay, but what I love about Bugs... Now, obviously, I hate when mega corporations remind you of other things they own. Because it makes you sad, it takes you out of the movie for a moment.
Yeah, I wish they'd dropped a Space Jam reference.
Well, that's...
Like, Neo, we need your Michael secret stuff.
Well, so, in Roger Rabbit, children watched that, didn't know what happened behind the scenes with businessmen. Steven Spielberg hid that from them. It's like, I will focus on making deals so Disney and Warner can coexist, and children can just...
But they literally name drop their parent company.
Well, yes, because it was a few months ago that Bugs Bunny movie had a Matrix reference, and I'm reminded of the teaser trailer for Civil War, where the reason everyone screamed when Underoos himself showed up is because the audience understands how businesses and copyrights work.
Yeah, in a way that no one outside of the trade knew about in, like, the 80s.
I love everything about Bugs, and it is a little stymied by the fact that, yeah, Bugs Bunny is owned by Warner Brothers, and that's why this character is supposed to contain so many references.
It is fantastic that they have a carrot shirt and, of course, the White Rabbit tattoo.
Oh, I love and they have blue hair and pronouns.
And at one point they ask, "What's up, Doc?" Of course.
They straight up, in a very serious tone, which I loved, and I felt the writers felt it was too much because they didn't give us a duck season, they didn't give us Ain't I a Stinker, and I'm like, look, okay. In the original Matrix, made in 1999.
Did you know?
Their names in Zion in the real world are their usernames.
Yeah.
So
they're hacker names.
They're hacker names. So when they were online, they would use the aliases Neo or Trinity or Morpheus. And then in the 2021 film, there was someone who used the alias online Bugs Bunny, and then maybe a series of numbers. Her name fits way better with the modern internet, as well as naming, one, a single syllable name, and two, basing your entire identity and presentation off of a fictional character you like.
They have blue hair, pronouns, and a name inspired by a character.
Yeah, they have blue hair, they have a single syllable name.
Are they, Munch's carrot, non-binary?
Well, yeah, so, there's a Tumblr post that I love, and I told Ella about on the drive to the theater, that is, someone trying to teach kids about non-binary people. Well, not all people are boys or girls. And the little boy responds, some people are pirates. And I looked over to Ella and said, are they, and then covered one eye and made a hook with my finger. Yep.
And they are.
No, it's pretty clear. It is pretty clear that is what is going on here. And they're great,
because it's like they are... I was worried in the opening that it was like, oh, here's like the new so-and-so. Like it was going to be their new version of an existing character, but it's a new role in the story.
There is a white rabbit that Neo has to follow in the first film.
Yeah, but I mean, she's not a character, really.
Versus Bugs is all in on the white rabbit thing. That was their thing before they got unplugged. Like... They love Bugs Bunny.
Because I feel like maybe it was after learning about Neo.
Maybe. And learning about following the White Rabbit.
Because there are Neologists in this movie, which I love, and I guess that would just be Christians.
Yeah, because he is Jesus, huh?
He has a fan base now. I mean, he had a fan base of one in Reloaded.
And the inclusion of what is clearly meant to be non-binary representation is why I was weighing for a bit. Is this movie better than the first film for me personally?
I see.
Because I don't get to see myself in film that often.
Again, like the first film, they basically all but say it. They are constantly talking about breaking binaries and IO and 0-1 and...
And, yes, so the binary, there's also a moment where they mention that the pills don't really matter and the red pill, blue pill thing. So the binary is an illusion.
Yeah, and it's just connecting it to literal binary, literal code is like, it's right there.
Yeah, I know, using terms that apply to both gender and programming is the Matrix's whole brand.
Like even, hacking and
you sent me the story of why Lana decided to make this film. And it's very touching. It is basically that she has power over who is alive because she can write anything with her characters and was grieving.
Yeah.
But also I wonder if she heard about binary being used as an LGBT term and was like, oh, I wish that existed in 1990. Oh, boy. Oh, that would have been great.
I don't know if perfect. It didn't exist.
We got ones and zeros all over that movie. Oh, that would have been so good.
Yeah, it's certainly way more in the public lexicon.
Yeah, it feels like if she knew about that term, it would have been in the first film somewhere.
I see. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So I don't know. I don't understand everything that happened in this film, but I'm okay with that. I think that's part of the brand at this point for the Matrix.
That's why I changed my mind and said, no, this is my second favorite halfway through, is when we were just following Thomas Anderson's miserable life, I understood what was going on perfectly. And the second the plot started to lose me, I'm like, all right, it's not as good as the first. Because I don't think the first is even a little bit confusing.
No, it's not. It's not. It's a perfect movie.
And this was honestly getting there for me in the first half until they get to I.O. I was like, yeah.
Oddly enough, I was kind of the opposite. I was most confused in the opening sequence. I don't understand. I need to look up articles or something about how Morpheus was he turned into an agent? Is that just a reconstruction of Morpheus? Are they going with the Matrix Online canon and Matrix and Morpheus died and I don't fully get it.
So here is what I gathered, and I could be wrong.
Okay.
On the off chance that what his therapist was telling him were delusions were real.
Yeah.
Neo made a program with a Morpheus with an incredibly advanced AI and set that AI to look for him. And then when Bugs entered this game that someone made, entered a program that she did not belong in, the components of that program became agents because that is just how it works.
Oh, they weren't inside the Matrix in the opening. They were inside a separate
They were
construct?
Inside a modal, a test file.
Yeah, that was the word I didn't understand.
Yeah, so they were inside some files that Thomas Anderson had made for binary.
Okay, because I know that
the reason it's called a modal is because it was not the game binary. It was just the settings from binary and a Morpheus AI, and that was it. And that's so modal means it's not a game, really. It's not a program.
It ain't no game.
They do say this isn't a game.
But I guess I thought that opening scene was set in the Matrix, and so when they're like, why are they running old code? It was asking about the machines running old code. I didn't realize that. I thought that, like, somehow Neo running this modal in his world, in the Matrix, altered the Matrix itself, which doesn't make sense, but you're saying they went a level deeper. They went into that game.
Yes, I believe that Bugs, and I don't understand how Bugs got into a modal for
Well, the thing
binary.
is, they didn't take the left turn at Albuquerque. That's how they got there.
I'm like, why am I in a video game? I was trying to enter the Matrix. It's just some video game.
Yeah, they tunneled under and,
If they had taken that left turn at Albuquerque, they would have wound up in the Matrix.
They would have been
but
there.
Instead, they wound up in a computer program within the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, I went too deep. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes more sense than before.
I think Morpheus did die in Matrix Online.
Yeah.
But Neo was not there for that.
It's ironic. Morpheus died in a video game and was resurrected in a video game.
Yeah, huh. But yeah, I think that Morpheus's death is canon, and this is not Morpheus. This is a Morpheus AI that Neo built based on his memories.
They have a statue of Lawrence Fishburne's Morpheus in I.O.
Doing the pose from when he gives the big speech.
It makes me sad when, like, they explain what happened to him, that basically he got complicit because he was, again, that's like his defining trait is his belief in Neo, and he wasn't worried about any other dangers because he believed that Neo had saved them.
Here's really why I like this film so much compared to the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
I never found Zion interesting.
And not just because the most of the rest of the franchise is crap.
Yeah. No, but it's really the reason the rest of the franchise is crap is Zion is not interesting.
No, it's not. It's really not. It looks boring.
Zion is the boring parts of Terminator that the sequels that no one cares about focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, like, it's almost exactly cloned from Terminator.
And they have, with a few of those alien walking robots sprinkled in for flavor.
Yeah, it's just Terminator, and it's I don't know. The Matrix, that's new. That doesn't remind me of anything. I mean, obviously, it's supposed to combine computer programming language with philosophy about the world's existence, but it does. I can't think of anything from fiction that is quite like the Matrix before.
But I think I.O. works well enough as a unique
works fine,
setting.
but like,
and we don't spend too much time there anyway.
But Matrix San Francisco is like
oh, it's beautiful.
And married Trinity, who...
Oh my god, yeah. Chad! I love that his name is Chad!
I love all of the details in Matrix San Francisco in this movie, and if it was just those, I would say this is better than Matrix 1, in all honesty.
Interesting. You think if they didn't go to I.O., it would be better than...
No, it was when they went to I.O. and started talking about all this stuff that happened, and I was like, I don't care about backstory, I want Neo to get Trinity back.
No, and I love that is the driving force of the whole thing. It is not about the war anymore. And they even say, like, that's why I.O. has been able to get so advanced. It's because their minds aren't constantly occupied with war. They can actually, like, do other things. So it's really not just a rehash.
And that is why you and I were worried about a sequel, is because, like, in all honesty, I don't think there is a way to make the war between Zion and 01 interesting to us.
No, it's not, because the first movie is about the machine, the metaphorical machine, and 2 and 3 are about literal fighting with robots.
Robot squids.
Which I don't care about.
No.
And it doesn't tote 100%. I mean, they say 60 years have passed, but like the ending of Revolutions is like, oh, the people who want to be freed, we'll free them. It's like, but they didn't. I don't understand that.
The only time we did care about a machine was the good machine, the friend.
Matriculated,
in Matriculated.
That segment.
So the fact there are so many references to the only machine we ever found interesting did make the real world scenes so much better to watch.
I resent a little bit that, like, the good robots are given cutesier designs. I wish that that they looked as terrifying as the Sentinels, but, you know, we're nice.
I also just love narratives in fiction where someone can kind of remember their past life, but they're in a world with modern world standards where you can't just tell people I used to be a god.
Yeah. I was Jesus once.
Yeah, he can't tell people that. And that's the scariest part of this movie for me is his therapist is right. The analyst, the villain of the film, is manipulating the hero by using admittedly sound logic.
He is a fantastic villain. I love the scene where, again, like you said, they use the familiar beats against you because he's about to do what he did before to wake up. He sticks his hand in the mirror, gets all goopy, and then on the other side of the mirror, his therapist starts pulling on him and, like, trying to make him stay. It actually builds on these things and makes them new and interesting rather than just retreading them, JJ. I mean, who?
Was that the moment you realized that the analyst is the villain?
Well, I mean, a villain.
Okay. Well, no, I realized he was the villain when Smith mentions him keeping him on a leash.
Oh, the ball and chain. I didn't realize he was the villain until the scene in the garage, which is maybe my favorite scene. And I'll tell you why. It connects to one of my big problems. I was rewatching, like, the first half of Reloaded the other day and realized it's not that the sequels necessarily have worse ideas. I mean, they do, but they're not terrible ideas, but we don't remember any of it, and we think it's confusing because a lot of it is just doled out in shot, reverse shots, two people standing or sitting, conversations.
Yeah.
I was paying attention to the conversations, and I liked what I heard. But if you're just a movie watcher and you're looking for something visual, you don't remember because there's no interesting visuals. But Neil Patrick Harris's entire villain monologue is accompanied by this beautiful, like, really memorable imagery where, again, like what I was saying before, the machines have learned from Neo's tricks and have leveled up their game and are now using bullet time.
Yeah, and I will never forget the imagery of one person moving in slow motion as someone around them moves at the correct speed, but in a terrible frame rate. I have never seen two people next to each other, one shot in 120 frames so they could be slowed down and still look fluid, one shot in a terrible frame rate.
Yeah, he's blurry.
Like, it's so confusing to the, he's blurry because he's not just moving at normal speed, he is breaking the world to move at normal speed.
Yes, and so I retained basically everything about that scene when it could have just been them both sitting and talking, and I wouldn't have retained any of it. And because he's giving this monologue and this exposition accompanied by these visuals, it's a cue to remember the information. The only memorable thing in the architect scene visually is the screen of other Neos, but that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. But you will never forget the bullet heading towards Trinity and Neil Patrick Harris. I'm just going to call him Neil Patrick Harris. Neil Patrick Harris just putting an apple in front of the bullet and watching as it blasts through the apple in slow motion.
And it reminded me of how the final episode of Loki season 1 has a very, very long tribute to the architect scene from Reloaded. But it is significantly better because the person who is reenacting the architect scene is walking around and is very expressive.
Well, and he has charisma also.
Yeah, and so in Matrix Reloaded, the architect doesn't change his facial expressions or get out of his chair.
Yeah, and when Neil Patrick Harris's analyst refers to his predecessor as being all cold and logical, I leaned over and was like, ergo, because I didn't make the connection that he was the next phase of the architect.
I know, that twist is delivered to you in that moment, so even though I figured out that he was the villain when Smith said ball and chain, I did not realize that he was the new architect, and that line made me get it, like, instantly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that is a line of exposition that made me understand what was going on in the plot better.
It's almost like the first movie level writing.
Yes! And the worst part about the architect scene in Reloaded is we've already established programs can be very fun, because that is after we meet the Merovingian.
Oh my god, yes. There were 2 moments in this film that reminded me, like, if I had any illusion that this was not a film directed by a Wachowski. And the first was, as you mentioned, the scene of the swarm people diving out of their apartment windows to try to land on Neo and Trinity's vehicle.
Yeah, human bodies being used as projectiles, which I don't think I've seen before.
And they landed in such a brutal way. I thought it was like blood at first, but I think it was actually code that was like oozing out of them.
It's blood.
I swear I saw, like, it was accompanied by line. Maybe it was code.
It's green. It is green. So it is supposed to be code.
But yeah, the second scene that gave me such a stark reminder that it's a Wachowski film was when the Merovingian briefly returns during the fight with Smith and the other exiled programs.
In the second film, the Merovingian was an aristocrat and not cat. His whole thing was loving this lavish life of luxury.
He can do anything, and so he chooses to have a life of luxury.
The actor is French, and he's doing an exaggerated French accent.
Yes.
But the Merovingian has made the decision to be French.
That's right, because he programmed that.
Yes, and we were just obsessed with the idea of an AI that can choose to be French because that fits its aesthetic, and we love him.
Yeah, and so he returns with these exiled programs, which I love that idea on its own, the idea that, like, Neo and crew are basically just screwing these programs over because every time they have to reset the Matrix, you upend their entire, like, lifestyle.
And he's in shabby clothing, so, like, his life of fame and riches have completely fallen apart.
To the point that I thought that character, I thought he was a completely different
I thought he was the guy from the subway, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was the guy I thought it was a collection of people that agents had taken over, and it's like, that's what happens to them. But no, it's the Merovingian, and so we get this dramatic battle sequence, and in the background, the Merovingian is ranting, mostly in French, about how much he hates gamers.
Ella, you're not going to believe me?
Yeah?
I think it's all in English.
Okay, well, in his thick accent.
Yeah, I got like 2 words of it, which I think was part of the... You can hear him the whole time, but there's also an action scene going on, so I think not being able to understand his rant is part of the joke of the scene.
Yeah, so during this brutal beatdown with all these people, he's just ranting about how much he hates video games and how it's, like, not high art like he was used to, and he's like, you are just on your little beep-boop, beep-boop, beep-boop.
We had style, we had conversation, not this beep, 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 beep. Art, films, books, they're all better. Originality mattered.
And then I believe the last thing he says is that he doesn't want to be in your reboot remake thing, and then leaves.
So maybe that's just a CG Merovingian, and what they really did was call the actor and record what he said when they asked him to come back on.
No, they got the actor to show up. They told him that was the meeting place, but then they trapped him. There were cameras and a boom mic there already rolling.
I do not want to be here in your stupid reboot.
It's so fun. I love the Merovingian, and I love that the new tech bro version of Smith who calls Neo Tom instead of Mr. Anderson, which I love so much. I love that he calls him Merv.
What the Merv is trying to... Yeah, that's fantastic.
The thing the Matrix franchise is best at is introducing characters.
Yes.
I don't think there's... I think the best moments of
Reloaded
and Revolutions are when some guy shows up.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes!
Hey, remember the train man?
Love the train man! And then we also...
Love the train man.
We also get to see the daughter of the couple that runs the subway.
Yeah, Sachi.
And Sachi is... I don't understand how she has aged, but...
well, yeah, I mean, if she's a program, I guess the rules are kind of nebulous.
Well,
but,
I guess if a program can decide to be French, a program can decide to be...
Today I will turn 30. So on the Wachowski's Wikipedia page, there's a section about their relationship with video games. The first sentence being, the Wachowskis are self-described gamers. But do you think they, at least Lana, do you think they hate gamers? I think they hate gamers.
Well, I know, so this movie has a lot of scenes that make fun of the game industry and the type of people who associate themselves with video games.
Not even in a dated, like, oh, they're losers way, in a very up-to-date way, to the point of, like, I mean, off the heels of these news stories about Activision and Blizzard and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think you have to understand that, unfortunately, Lana Wachowski is probably acutely aware of what red pilled means and who Anonymous is.
On the internet, yeah.
So I think a lot of that is, her saying, hey, I know we have similar interests. You are not my audience.
Yeah.
But, my favorite thing about their love of video games is that for the, was it The Path of Neo, or was it just the video game adaptation of Reloaded?
Well, Path of Neo recaps all 3 movies.
Okay, so in The Path of Neo, they don't...
Are you talking about the...
yeah, they don't think the final battle in the movie works as a game at all. They don't think that it all leading up to you punching one guy.
And we know this because they told us. There's a cutscene where 8-bit representations of the Wachowskis...
Avatars of them sit down and seemingly improvise because they, like, laugh at each other's jokes through it. It's almost a Wachowski podcast.
You see, at this point in the story, Neo stands on the verge of Satori, ready to resolve the paradox of choice and choicelessness, of free will versus fate, but that can only be achieved through an act of surrender.
Now, maybe that works in a movie, but in a video game, the Jesus thing is, well...
lame.
If you're like us, then right now you're ready for 15 minutes of sweaty palmed button-pushing action.
So we suggested to Shiny that we change the ending.
Just explain why they didn't think the final Smith fight would work as a video game, which means, like...
They understand the medium.
Well, yeah, they were so incredibly hands-on for this game, where they came up with a new final battle for the trilogy to fit what worked in a video game, and they recorded that scene explaining it.
Right, and that part would have been enough, but they recorded their rationale and explained to the player.
So there was just a scene in the video game of the Wachowskis explaining game design and what is fun in a video game. And it's like, they clearly understand this from a very, very personal level, and I almost wonder that, like, if their first screenplay...
Oh, Assassins?
If Assassins flopped... They might have just been like, all right, let's try making video games.
Try game design.
Hey, just like the other person who wrote something called Assassins, huh? Stephen Sondheim's Assassins.
Oh, yes, exactly. And game design is kind of the new soul-crushing office job, huh?
Yeah, and boy, Neo's job in the first movie does not resemble our current world. I remember going to the bar at 5 p.m. one day. And I walked in through the doors and sat down anywhere I wanted at the bar because there was no one else there. In that moment, I realized, what does it's 5 o'clock somewhere mean? And I started thinking about it, and I realized there must have been a point in time where working 9 to 5 was so common that bars were so expected to be crowded at 5 that there was a turn of phrase about it.
And happy hour being 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and the Dolly Parton song, and I'm just like, I don't know 2 people who are not coworkers with the same work schedule. I don't think I ever have. So, like, I'm not 100% sure what changed. And if any of our listeners have any idea to the explanation of this, because it doesn't even make sense to me.
Economic theorists out there.
It doesn't even make sense to me that in 1999, having a soul-crushing cubicle job was such a universal experience that there were
4 movies.
4
movies, I thought?
There's The Matrix, there's Fight Club, Office Space, and Being John Malkovich. Okay. I watched a video essay about the Cubicle movie, and they say that it doesn't have to literally be a cubicle. Like, there are a lot of movies about being unsatisfied with your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But, that now resembles going to a place where you wear jeans and sneakers and everyone acts all buddy-buddy with you.
And it's such an interesting, I love, again, it isn't just a meta, hey, this happens in the real world too, because it makes sense for the Matrix and the machines to do that. It's a more sinister trap for Neo and for the humans, And just like it's a more sinister trap from real-life cannibalism. Capitalism. Freudian slip.
What's the difference? Are you talking about the process of using people as fuel, or the process of, oh wait a second.
So Jude, I think, was the name of that, his assistant, the tech bro.
Oh my god, I hate him.
Yeah, well, they, like we were saying, they made him as despicable as possible in a very realistic way,
I also
alienating their alt-right fandom.
Yeah, he's the one that calls Trinity a MILF.
And he's not wrong, but
how Keanu Reeves acts stress, like in the board meeting scenes, he is completely silent, and then later his therapist is like, yeah, it makes sense that you had an episode. Your boss is making you bring back your old work in a way you're not comfortable
your trauma,
with.
yeah.
And similarly, this just stone-faced, like, I'm not here right now, is how Keanu acts around this Jude guy.
I don't understand I haven't seen a ton of Keanu movies. I don't understand the joke that he's a wooden actor.
So that's an outdated joke. No one's made that joke in decades, but,
Yeah. I just watched too much Nostalgia Critic as a kid. Not gonna lie, those scenes where Bugs looks up at the rooftop and sees Neo and he's bald, I thought it was Doug Walker.
So, before The Matrix, he was best known for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is a really stupid movie. And it was aiming to be. It is a comedy. In that movie, he plays kind of a California surfer dude stereotype.
Yeah.
The Matrix is directed for everyone to sound incredibly monotone.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this movie. And that was, I think, an issue a lot of people had with even the first movie. The fact that not only does Smith talk like that, but so does Morpheus, and to some extent Trinity, and to some extent Neo. It was really that he went from a very silly role to a very stoic role, and in the stoic role, at one point says, "Whoa," which is one of Theodore Logan's catchphrases. Another one I forgot about. Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It's generally accepted that he is focusing more on getting the accent accurate than acting in that film.
Yeah.
So he's never like, how would my character's face look in response to that? How would my character perform this?
But it seems like they're just cherry picking at that point.
No, but it was that those were his first three well-known movies. He did not have a well-known role at the time. So what Doug Walker is doing is parroting a joke from 1999, much like
everything else he does.
Yeah, much like the jokes in every other video. His first film was a comedy. His second film, admittedly, Francis Ford Coppola did not do a good job directing him. And then his third well-known film, he is being directed to be stoic. And honestly, Neo is kind of not a character in the first film.
Well, he doesn't know anything. It's his
but
process
also,
of
that
learning.
is represented in the script by every single line as a question, so...
Right, more than half of his dialogue.
And it doesn't make him feel human. He feels human to me so much in this movie, but I never...
Well, it doesn't help that people in the Matrix structure their sentences only saying part of it, so the other person has to say, with what? Or for who? Or why? And then they have to say the next part of their sentence.
One of my favorite moments in Matrix Reloaded is when Morpheus is flirting with Niobe, and Niobe is talking like a normal human person, and Morpheus is talking like Morpheus, and learning that Morpheus...
It's just a Morpheus thing.
Learning that Morpheus has chosen to speak like that makes all... That this is this particular person's manner of speech just always in all situations, in retrospect, makes me appreciate the performance from the first film more. Because now I know that this is just a weirdo who probably talked like this when he lived in the Matrix.
Yeah, everyone in Zion thinks Morpheus is weird, and I'm sure that's just part of it. In the Doug Walker scene, the aforementioned, we talk about how Bugs' job in the Matrix was to wash windows, to help people see better, to clear the things that were that were clouding their sight.
Hey, there you go. I didn't even catch that.
And they connect that, they show that, and then they show Morpheus 2.0 realizing that the condensation on his mirror is code. So again, lots of mirrors, lots of Windows XP.
Lots of, Windows X. No, come on, it's Windows 10 at this point.
Yeah, I love the advancements in the humans' technology. We've talked about a few, but like the fact that what are they called? Operators can physically manifest as like holograms. So they're not just over the phone.
Oh yeah, that was
great.
Wild.
There are a lot of things that make sense as technological developments that they would have made that don't suddenly make it too easy for them, you know?
Yeah, it does feel just like the natural progression of technology. It does feel like the difference in tech from 1999 to 2021 rather than fictional tech from a fictional world 60 years apart.
And it's not like, you know, the problem that they have in Reloaded and Revolutions is that Neo has activated his one power, so now he's God. And so, but they nerf him a little bit. He can no longer, well, actually, he can no longer fly. But
at the end of this film, Trinity is the one, implying that there is not a one, there is a binary.
There is an O1.
Or perhaps a Trinity.
Yeah.
Well, as we've said, Lego Movie is clearly just a...
Oh, yeah, speaking of, brief tangent, I do wonder if, when they're flying into I.O., they're seemingly headed towards just more rocks, and Neo is like, we're gonna crash, and I wonder if that was an intentional joke from reference to the Lego Movie, because the way they get to Cloud Cuckoo Land is by flying directly into the sun, and then and it points out, like, are we gonna crash?
I think the Lego stuck in his nose line that,
oh yeah, that's true,
that Trinity has. But so the Matrix is a movie about a white guy learning from a woman in leather and a mystical black man that his repetitive life is a system to control him, and that he's actually the chosen one. And so also is the Lego Movie. And I was thinking about how Wildstyle's whole thing in the Lego Movie is that she really wanted to be the special, and finding out that this guy is the special kind of upsets her.
She wanted to be the chosen one.
And when Trinity wound up being the one, and possibly has been this whole time, I was like, there you go, Wildstyle.
I love how open to interpretation it is, but not begging for interpretation. Like, you can't enjoy it on its own.
Here's an interpretation. I got one for you.
Yes.
With every version of the Matrix, there is a different one. We learn that.
Oh, true. Neo ain't the one in this Matrix.
Yeah, maybe. What if Neo ain't the one in this Matrix? He's still got some of his one stuff from that Matrix that he was the one in.
But not all of them.
But what if Trinity's the one?
My idea is that it's the one is just the power of love. Because in the first movie, Neo does not truly become the one until Trinity confesses that she's in love with him. And I imagine there are things similar to that in the sequels that I don't care to remember. And they have a very specific flashback clip from Reloaded, which on my rewatch stuck out to me as a very poignant moment, which is when, after the big, can we say orgy? Orgy. After the orgy scene, Neo and Trinity are just lying in their bed, and Neo is having these nightmares of something bad happening to Trinity, and she just takes his hand and says, "You feel this? I'm never letting go." And so, when they make a leap of faith off the building at the climax, I think they do have a close-up of their hands holding each other, and then Trinity starts to fly.
Now, here's my question. If you, Ella...
Me.
If one time you clipped through someone's titty to restart their heart with your hand...
Yeah.
And then you ran into that person, and they didn't seem to remember you...
Yeah, that'd be a little annoying.
And also, you made a video game where that happens. And this person comes to you and says, I played your game. Would you be like, oh, the heart thing? Sorry.
The titty part? Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, it happens.
Can I have a quick CinemaSins ding?
Okay.
How would a 1999 video game look that good?
It's not a 1999 video game, is it?
I think it is, because it said...
Is it implied that it was that long ago?
It said that it was 20 years in the Matrix since...
Well, it's not. It's Matrix 99. It's not... They don't necessarily... You know, how do they know what tasty we tasted?
No, I know, but the Matrix in the Matrix resembles real-world 1999, and... The program in The Matrix Resurrections resembles 2021, and they say he made the first game 20 years ago. So it is fairly safe to assume he made the game in a world that vaguely resembled the program he was in.
Okay, I must have missed the part where they mention how long.
Yeah, there are several. That's
the
why the 60 years thing is brought up, is because it was 20 years.
But it's all a fakeroo anyway. I think I can accept it.
Yeah. But what if someone pointed out to Tom Anderson, who has extensive coding knowledge, how did you make graphics look that good? And he was like, how did I? What? That doesn't make any sense. Something here isn't adding up.
The analyst shows up and is like, here's your prescription. Oh, thanks.
I also love the sheer quantity of blue pills in this film.
Yeah.
There was just the one in the first film.
And then they really didn't bring up the pills at all in the sequels.
No, and this one's like blue pills everywhere. Because the blue pills in the first film were supposed to represent, allegorically, antidepressants, but in this film, Lana Wachowski has decided that she no longer enjoys subtlety.
Well, no, because it blew up in everyone's face last time, and we got the alt-right.
Yep, so now the blue pills are outright stated to be mood stabilizers. They are an antipsychotic. So, It's like, no, that's what those were. That's what those were, by the way.
I love that this film that so many, grim, dark, faux, edgy, alt-right chuds have appropriated is ultimately a love story. I mean, this is a love story. This is a romance movie. This is about love. The whole franchise has been about the power of love.
It's just gonna sound really weird, but the right likes love. Like, I know the online right, the alt-right are atheists, but, marriage is a Christian thing.
Yeah.
Monogamy was invented.
Different.
I
know. I see what you're saying, but this is love in the face of an institution.
Yeah.
I mean, they're T for T.
Or possibly the same person post and pre-transition.
Yeah, that's a good theory. I love that the core of this is, again, it's not the fate of the world, it's not war, it's just, I need to save Trinity, because I love her. It is literally just, we look out for each other, we care about each other, and they're not trying to destroy anything, or attack anything, or defend their base from destruction for 40 minutes. He's just trying to rescue his girlfriend.
So in one scene, they teleport to a bullet train in Japan, which is the fastest consumer vehicle in the world, so it makes sense in the lore why they're using it. But I have to wonder if another reason is that wearing masks on public transit was never new in Asia.
Oh, for the filming?
Some of the extras are wearing masks, which is has always been a thing on public transit in Japan since they first introduced public transit to Japan. Some passengers have been wearing masks.
I see. Yeah, maybe.
Because they said the film started shooting in February 2020, which means it must have gotten delayed at some point. They couldn't have finished that in a month. I love this movie.
I do. I really like it.
I understand that a lot of what I've been seeing is that people are just exhausted by soft reboots doing the 21 Jump Street joke and being like, no, but see, we're in on it.
I mean, fair, but also, life sucks. I just want to watch The Matrix.
That's really where this came from, was not, as the film would imply, Warner Brothers begging Lana to do it, but Lana being like, life sucks, I want to make The Matrix again.
Right, going through something. Exactly. And we touched on it a little before, but freaking Chad. His name being Chad also, I feel like, is a contemporary, alt-right. Cause you know who came up with that term are the red-pilled incels. Like,
well, also, okay, so he was, I believe, the stunt coordinator in some of Lana's other films. I'm not sure if The Matrix.
oh, the
Yes,
actor?
whose name is Chad. So some of
Right.
it must have been like, oh, Chad.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's an inside joke.
Like, she already knows him. She knew Chad. But he does look like the Chad meme.
Yeah.
He has the lips and hair of the Chad meme.
Yeah, and there is, again, like a social commentary horror, but also an in-universe, it makes sense thing of her being like this almost, fighting being a tied down suburban mom of like, she's got the nuclear family and they attempt to pry her away from Neo with the, with the family obligations. And
that got really real for me.
yeah,
I've actually heard of people who have declined to seek help for their mental health because it would affect their family dynamic.
yeah. And she literally says, like, I know I should get back into therapy, but the kids.
I do not feel like the world that Neo is trapped in The Matrix 1999 represents my world or my problems. I don't want what he wants, and the film does not feel personal to me. This one's kind of a rough watch at points. I'm a little more depressed than I was earlier today.
I just love Trinity in this. I mean, this is the best Trinity's ever been. Not that she was ever bad, but...
In the video that made me fall in love with The Matrix that I mentioned earlier by Movies with Mikey, he mentions that Keanu Reeves has had a renaissance as an actor, and he's like, now I just gotta wait for the Carrie-Anne Moss renaissance!
Yeah. Yeah.
And between
exactly.
this and what was it, Jessica Jones?
I don't know. Jupiter Jones.
Yeah. I think it's coming. I wanna...
The Carrie-Anne Renamos.
They joke about this in a recent episode of What a Cartoon, that women, when they age out of being young and attractive, can't find roles for a bit. And then they have a comeback role and then start appearing in everything again. So they say that actresses just have to go away for a bit. From like age 30 to 50, they just disappear off the face of the earth. And then 50, they're back full force like they were in their 20s.
Patrick Harris, it's very pointedly, his character's very pointedly misogynistic.
Yes.
Which is fascinating to me.
I think a lot of that is Lana realized there was a problem with clarity of intent.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. It's the same thing, same as Jude, same as the Jude character.
Yes, by having the villains be misogynistic, it not subtle, but it is avoiding something like red pilling or Anonymous taking off.
And neither is, go ahead, make rainbows in the sky. Last thing I wanted to say is Trinity gets assigned a new dead name. We don't actually know what her dead name in the original Matrix was,
but we might.
No, because he says it was the, one of my favorite scenes, the ending, when Neo stands around petting the analyst cat while Trinity beats him up and then heals him and then beats him up again. And he says that Tiffany was an in-joke for himself.
Okay. But also there's so much expanded universe Matrix stuff that there's a chance.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
There's a chance the wiki has her real dead name. I mean, not that there's a such thing as a real dead name, that it, by definition, a dead name is not your real name.
It's all fake. Yeah. And oh my god. I mean, we've talked about all the non-binary visibility in this.
Yes.
And the not even subtle parts. But when they say, like, oh yeah, Thomas Anderson, you probably know him by his real name, Neo. Like, and...
Yeah. I remember you shared something from Instagram of someone calling Neo Anderson, trying to give the character's full name.
It's like, no.
And that makes sense, that if a character is called Neo and Mr. Anderson and you want to be really specific and you don't remember the film that well.
Yeah.
Be like,
it's like, a little confused, got the spirit, but...
Yeah, so I love that they just straight up say Tom Anderson is not his name, Neo is his real name.
Right.
Which is how it works. That is actually how it works.
Exactly. Smith says a line, something about, like, you allowed me to be me. And I was like, I love you, Smith.
Smith is trans.
They get Jonathan Groff to point out his own beautiful blue eyes.
Smith is trans. Smith is transphobic.
He becomes
exist.
a little less transphobic in this movie.
He does.
Though.
That was the moment where I leaned over to you and said, he's just trans now after he said that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly. And when it's this will she or won't she of, like, will Trinity choose to go with Neo? And there's something so, like, I was worried at first that they would leave it on, like, a sequel hook or something. But, like, that setup of, like, these people who kind of vaguely remember each other but don't, like, you want to recreate their meet cute, you just want them to be together and be happy, and there's so much...
Honestly, maybe if you've lived a life anything similar to mine, wait till you're in a good mood to watch this one.
But the pathos in that is so much stronger than any Fate of Zion baloney that I had to sit through before.
And it reminds me of Men in Black 2, and Men in Black 3.
Yeah.
Men in Black is a very good movie. Have you seen it?
I've not.
It's magnificent. I'll show it to you sometime. Men in Black 2 is a compilation video of the funniest moments from Men in Black.
Funny dog moments.
Yeah, so the dog in the first film, obviously they're an allegory for undocumented citizens, you know? And there's a lot of, you know, don't judge a book by its cover sort of moments, sort of the thesis of the franchise. Yeah. And there's the moment where they introduce the dog is they're like, okay, we have an informant, and they walk up to the strangest looking man you've ever seen and a normal looking dog. And you're like, yeah, I see where this is going. And then Kay leans down and starts interrogating the dog. And that's hilarious. That is the entire joke with Frank the Pug in the first film. The second film, Frank the Pug, who is just terrible at following the rules of the Men in Black, that is his whole character in the first film, is an MIB operative only because most of the film is at MIB, and that gives him more screen time. And every single scene in the second film is about a longer extended performance of a comic relief scene from the first film. It is exclusively a comedy. And when they designed the third one, which is so good, my dad says it's the best one. I prefer the first one. But Barry Sonnenfeld said, we misunderstood what people liked about the first film, and now that we know, we want another chance at making a sequel. And the third film is about Jay going back in time and meeting a rookie Kay and them becoming best friends again, and Jay reconnecting with his dad. And so it really does feel like The Matrix Resurrections is a study of what is loved about the Matrix.
They reconnected with what works.
And there is a scene where there's a board meeting of everyone trying to say what that means as...
trying to explain to the creator what their creation means.
And interesting that this was written by Lana and two other people, but I do think they found it.
They did.
By making it about love, and by making it about trans rights, and by making it about how your job and the government and police exploit you. This feels like a Matrix film.
But it doesn't feel like The Matrix 1999. It feels like The Matrix Resurrection.
Yes, it feels like a new Matrix film, and Reloaded and Revolutions feel like terrible Terminator films.
Yes.
Also, not only is the villain, the analyst, a misogynist, he also lives in an unsegregated world that he is trying to bring back to the way it used to be.
Yeah, he wants to make the Matrix great again.
He really does. It's like Deus, his god, is no longer against Zion, but he's like, well, I don't care what God says.
Yeah, exactly. I can close out on a thought about, as a trans woman, as a trans femme, person specifically, the things that stuck out to me and the things that feel indicative of Lana and, both the Wachowskis, but, since the Matrix having transitioned, there's the scene where was it Lexi? Maybe it was somebody else in the new crew of the ship is talking to Neo before they go back to rescue Trinity and says, like, I'm here because of her. I want to be as fearless as Trinity. And that stuck out to me, as well as I know, obviously a parallel to the first film in the climax when Chad, I can't not say Chad condescendingly, when Chad is trying to drag Trinity away from Neo in this very, staged coffee date. It's like they agree to see if Trinity will decide to go with Neo, and Neil Patrick Harris is basically like, all right, have your meet cute at SWAT team gunpoint. That's a very fun image. But when she's being dragged away, they keep calling her Tiffany, and I was like, say the line, Bart. And she says,
stop calling me that. I hate that name. My name is Trinity, and you better take your hands off of me.
And I think we clapped. There were 4 people, there were 6 total people in the theater, but I think we clapped.
And this reminds me of how you have said that The Matrix 1999 is a trans narrative, but is a closeted trans narrative.
Yes, that was the crux of my presentation for gender studies class.
And this is the first Matrix film that gets to be an out trans narrative.
Exactly.
In the first film, Lana, the world that resembled Lana's was the Matrix, not Zion.
Yeah.
In this film, IO and its citizens are her.
Yeah.
And there gets to be these explicit lines like that, and it just reminds me of how she is happier now than what she was when she made the first
bringing
film.
it into the specificity of trans womanhood. Again, not that there's only one way to be trans, obviously. There are infinite ways to be trans, and I think they touch on that pretty nicely in this film. But with Neo affirming that his name is Neo is if you squint, it's something that, is about trans women, is autobiographical from trans women. But, Neo is, as far as we know, a guy. And to have that scene played out with a woman, with Trinity, feels so meaningful. Matrix 1, closeted trans narrative. Matrix 2 and 3, some crap about robots.
And that's
Matrix
also
4.
why there is this shift between those two movies of Neo being the main character to Trinity being the main character, because the one that the narrative focuses on is the one that the writer relates to, and even though they are the same characters, the one that Lana sees herself in has changed.
Exactly. And, Neo is not the one being saved and woken up. I mean, he is, but, in the first film, Trinity goes in to wake up Neo, and now Neo is returning the favor. It is binaries. I've been thinking about binaries. I mean...
so let's say goodnight.
Say goodnight, everybody.
Good
night, every pony. The fact that Jonathan Groff, being that he is the new face of Smith, Charlie and I both agreed, as we left the theater, that the only course of action to play us out was this. You say, the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you hurl in the sea when you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember, we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back. Soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back. Time will tell. You'll remember how I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all, Mr. Anderson. And when push comes to shove, I'll send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. You say our love is draining and you can't go on. You need love like everything does. You'll be the one complaining. when I'm gone. But what good is complaining when you're unable to speak? And no, don't change the subject, 'cause you're my favorite subject, Mr. Anderson. My sweet, submissive subject. My loyal, royal subject, Mr. Anderson, forever and ever. And ever. And ever. You'll be back. Like before, I will fight the fight and win the war. For your love, for your praise, and I'll love you till my dying days. When you're gone, I'll go mad. So don't throw away this thing we had, Mr. Anderson. When push comes to shove, I'll kill your friends and family to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 da. Da 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 ya da. Da da da. Now the rest of me. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 ya da. Mr. Anderson.
Oh, hey, Magazine Seuss.
Oh, hey, Jesus.
Do you want to give some patron shoutouts with me?
Oh, I love listing things.
All right. Thank you, too.
Daddy Driftwood.
Daddy Buttons.
Juno Series.
Gwen Prime.
Junior Bra.
Friendly Local Geek.
Fun Boringness.
Hugh Salinas.
David Gansel.
Ryan Faber.
Stephen Patrick Maholland. And Oliver Pluto. We are going to use that money to procure snacks.
Send us some more snack procuring money over at patreon.com/mysteryshack.